Cool. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you, Duke. We got another hot seat with Chatsworth. I love Chatsworth. We all love Chatsworth. I'm pretty sure at least most of us do. So ZetaFrame, this is really exciting. It's a new product, and Duke is going to be talking about it and doing some show and tell. I love show and tell. So if you guys have any questions, please put it in the little chat, little Q&A thing, or raise your hand, and I'll be monitoring that, and we can ask questions and then go from there. So Duke, thank you for joining us. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Blake. And hello, Low Voltage Nation. Thanks for having me back. I was here at some point last year covering our Qubit wall mount cabinet. And since then, we've launched our newest data center cabinet platform, ZetaFrame. We launched that back early February, so we're about 4 months in. So happy to go over that with you and all the benefits that ZetaFrame brings to the market. I do have a short, very brief PowerPoint. Didn't want to PowerPoint you to death. So I'll cover a few slides, just touch on some high points, and then we'll go full screen with the camera. I have a ZetaFrame right here behind me, and we'll zoom in on various aspects of it. I'll just walk you through it front to back, top to bottom. And then, like Blake said, any questions, just type them in, and happy to answer them at the end. If you want me to go back and revisit any feature and get a close up of it, I'm happy to do that as well. So we'll just jump right into it. As the screen says, we've spent about 2 years in development of ZetaFrame. We don't release cabinets, very often. So when we do, we really try to capture as many new innovations and needs that we've identified in the market as possible. For those of you that don't know, custom kind of tailored solutions, particularly on the cabinet or rack side of things, is a pretty big part of what Chatsworth product does. It's a pretty significant part of our business. And over the years, we've learned that no two projects are the same, no two customers are the same. So the requirements for the products need to be flexible as well. So with ZetaFrame, it really does blur the line between what's traditionally like a data sheet type standard product offering and then a completely customized solution. We've kind of merged those two sides of the business and really optimized ZetaFrame to bring a ton of flexibility and customization to the customer, so that it essentially arrives at the site ready to go. And I'll show you some more details on that. But in addition to this high configurability, ZetaFrame has industry-leading strength and a number of new innovations that I'll get into now. There's 6 points on the screen currently. These are the real high-level points that I want to cover. These are the big picture kind of things. But in addition to this, there's a lot of little details that we take pride in designing into the product that hopefully make it either the end user life a little easier in dealing with the cabinet or making various adjustments in the cabinet, or to most of you, the installers and technicians, making the setup process, that day one implementation, a little bit easier, the cable management easier and more intuitive. So hopefully all those little convenience features shine through as well during the presentation. But on these 6 high-level points, first one, pretty self-explanatory, just a new design aesthetic. In addition to, being very functional product, we take pride in having products that actually look the part as well. So ZetaFrame brings this slightly new aesthetic to the market. Industry-leading strength. This is a big one, and a big trend we've seen over the last few years of customers really increasing the payloads of what they're racking in the cabinet. So there's a lot that goes into just the strength aspect of ZetaFrame, again, that I'll get into a little more detail here in a second. The next two are two elements of a cabinet that CPI is well known for in the market, being airflow management and cable management. So we've expanded on and improved upon those two elements, made them a little simpler to specify and pare down the selection, and made them more kind of universal in application. That 5th point, integrated bonding, that's a pretty cool piece of innovation. it essentially does away with all the green jumper wires or bonding wires that you're used to seeing inside the cabinet. And last, I touched on this to start, but this fast selection and customization, we have did a lot of work into creating this configurator tool that allows us to sit down with customers and completely design a cabinet that's specific to their needs right there dynamically on the fly. So let's go into more detail about the strength of this frame architecture. So it's a fully welded steel frame, and it consists of some fairly elaborate, highly engineered roll form shapes. And roll form is just it's a production process where you take a flat sheet of steel, introduce a number of bends through one continuous kind of forming line or assembly line, so to speak. And at the end of it, gets welded up, and you have this shape. So it's a highly complex and engineered shape. But because of it, we're able to go to market with a 5,000 pound static load rating. Now, like I said, we've seen customers over the years already approaching that 4,000 pound mark. So we wanted to kind of future-proof it a bit with the 5,000 pound load rating. And also understand that, of course, ZetaFrame is UL listed under 2416. There's a number of different requirements to achieve that listing. And with respect to load rating, one of those tests is a 4 times test. So basically, it's whatever a manufacturer advertises the load rating to be, you have to test the product to 4 times that amount. So with ZetaFrame having a 5,000 pound load rating, we actually applied 20,000 pounds of force to this frame, and happy to say it passed. It's an extremely strong frame. Going along with that 5,000 pound static load rating, we also have a 4,000 pound dynamic load rating on the standard casters. So these are fully load bearing casters. They're standard with every ZetaFrame. There's no upcharge for it. It's just the default caster. 4,000 pounds is a lot of weight to roll around. So a lot of additional testing went into that. And again, this speaks to trends we've seen in the market. So over the past few years, we've seen an increase in the use of integration. So whether that means that a cabinet is shipped to a third-party integrator who then populates it with equipment and then transports it to site, whether it's across town or across the country, or if it might arrive at the site integrated in one part of the campus and then wheeled over to another. Either way, we're seeing load ratings well into the thousands, 4,000 pounds. And we wanted to make sure that the architecture can accommodate those new applications and that additional weight. And then paired along with that is, if you do need to ship the cabinet under load with all this expensive equipment, it of course has to be protected as well. That's why we have a 4,000 pound shipping load rating on an optional shock pallet. So should be absolutely no concerns whatsoever in the strength and the integrity of the ZetaFrame architecture itself. Airflow management, we still, with ZetaFrame, offer our vertical exhaust duct system. This is our patented passive cooling approach. You're essentially taking a full hot aisle containment solution and shrinking it down to the actual cabinet or rack level. And there's a lot of efficiency gains by doing that. We can configure a ZetaFrame with the solution. But in addition to that, just within the base ZetaFrame part number, you can also select things like an air dam kit or a bottom panel, or seal up your front rails with either grommets or brushes. So those things traditionally have been an accessory that you have to remember to order. But with ZetaFrame, we've integrated all that into the base cabinet part number so that you can get all this stuff pre-installed at the factory. Cable management, which obviously is a big topic for most of you viewers now. And instead of a big list of cable management options, that's kind of a head scratcher as to what to do with all these different things or when to use them, we boil it down to really 3 products. One there on the left, and I'll show you this in real examples here in a bit, but the one there on the left is a lashing panel or lashing bracket. Just as the name suggests, designed to run a strip of Velcro through to tie your cable bundles down. But we've also added features to use an accessory from our Motive cable management family of open architecture cable management products to use within ZetaFrame. And then, of course, you have a finger style manager that you're used to dealing with. And then the third piece of that is a front to rear manager that connects between the front and rear equipment mounting rails, gives you a pathway to move cables front to back. So any of these three can be used separately on their own or in conjunction with one another to accommodate just about any application you may come across. That one image there in the middle, it's a little bit difficult to see, but and I'll show you how this works. But with ZetaFrame, we have a track system that's implemented in the top of the frame architecture that allows you to support your cable pathway directly from the cabinet too. Lots of benefits that go along with that. Integrated bonding. So we took an always-on approach to bonding with ZetaFrame. So traditionally, open the cabinet door, you're used to seeing these green wires that connect the door to the frame or connect the side panels to the frame, top panel, bottom panel. Any of these major subcomponents of a cabinet require this electrical bonding wire, and there's a safety element to that. It's a UL component. So what we did was we figured out a way to just eliminate those altogether. Now, in the case of side panels and top panels, the big flat panel work, it's just a matter of a simple metal to metal contact patch that when you install those accessories, they automatically make that bond. The doors are a little bit trickier though, obviously, because you have a moving part. So what we've done is achieve that electrical bond through the hinge point itself. So it's quite a bit of engineering involved just in that aspect alone, but the end result is this always on bonding. You're no longer trusting that whoever last took that piece off. It's real common, especially that day one installation, to take side panels off, take the doors off. You're no longer trusting that person remembered to plug that wire back in. It's just, again, it's always on. And this is really the last slide. It's just, it touches back to this highly configurable ability that we have with ZetaFrame. So this is just a screenshot of our configurator tool. Lots of benefits to this. You basically start by selecting your basic frame size, height, width, depth. Then you start adding door styles, rail styles, top panels, side panels. You go into the level of detail where you define where you want your rails spaced at, your front rail setback, your front to rear rail spacing. You then select what type of cable management you want and where you want it installed in the cabinet itself. You can select the type of PDU brackets you want. You can install our PDUs in it. So I'm sitting right now in our Research Development Training Center in Georgetown, Texas, just north of Austin. And our eConnect PDUs are made at our plant just south of here, about 15 minutes away. So having those in close proximity and the ability to configure ZetaFrame with power, it's just one more thing that you can include and configure with the cabinet and not have to worry about doing all that work separately. So once you get your ZetaFrame configured exactly the way you want it, you come to kind of the end page where you get this detailed description. You get a part number that's unique to you or your project. Nobody else has access to that. Nobody can go in and modify that. It's your part number, it's your design. You'll get a spec sheet as an output for that. You'll get a 3-page detailed drawing showing exterior and interior details and dimensions. All of this still carries the UL mark, even though you made all this customizations to it, still bears the UL mark. And then you think about the benefit on site and just the supply chain benefit in general. You're ordering and managing one part number instead of a dozen different part numbers, right? So traditionally you'd have to order a cabinet, your cable management, any lashing brackets, your PDU brackets, your PDUs, electronic locks if you're going that far with it. So you think about having to order and track all those things, receive all those things, install all those things, and then deal with all that additional packaging. So there's an environmental aspect and benefit to that as well. So the message is just let our experts at our factories install this stuff for you. We're already here. We would much prefer install it than put it in a box and ship it. So that's kind of the main takeaway for that. So with that, I'm going to flip the camera around.
There was a quick question on Facebook, and I think you answered it though. But Mike asked, "Is that cable management in the front?" And I think you showed that on the next slide.
In the example, it was, but the answer is it's exactly where you want it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I took a screenshot of the slide that because there's a delay between the Facebook and all that, so it's
gotcha.
Yeah. You answered the question.
Yeah. In the example here, and I'll go ahead and bear with me while we change the setup here.
No, you're good.
So this is a ZetaFrame here. This is 45U. This is the widest one we offer. It's 800 millimeters or 31.5 inches. Just because of some constraints here in the showroom, it is a bit shallow. We do sell more of the standard 4-foot depth, but just keep that in mind. It is a bit shallow. Still has the 78% open perforation. I'll go ahead and open the door. And this is a demo piece, so some things are strictly for demo purposes. This one does have the cable management in front. It's got 2 different examples that I'll show you, but we'll just go ahead and get into some of the details. So up here, here's the door hinge, and like I said earlier, this is where the electrical bond is achieved. We did go ahead and etch the little grounding symbol into the frame itself. Just to give some indication that that's where that electrical bond is achieved. And, for any inspector coming through that's used to seeing green wires, might question it. But anyway, that's that. The door is still removable. This pin, you just pull it down. It's captured, so the pin isn't going to fall on the floor or anything. It's captured, and then just pull the pin, and the door will release from the hinge. Then a similar story here at the bottom. Right, just pull the pin up to remove the door. And while we're down here, you do have access to the top of the leveler stem. So this is the top of the leveling foot right here. And we have this hex feature in the top of that. So with a ball end hex driver on the end of your cordless drill, you can quickly drill that down and lower your leveling feet. And then do some fine tune, leveling and adjustment and tighten it with a 13 millimeter wrench. But just being able to quickly lower those, if you're dealing with, 10, 20, 50, 100 cabinets times 4 leveling feet, that's a ton of time just unscrewing a leveler. So this feature can potentially save you a ton of time on site, just being able to quickly drill it down to the floor. Some other features, the casters are attached from the tops of the frame. So you can see these 4 bolts, those hold the casters to the frame. Here's one of the ZetaFrame casters. If you're been around a bunch of cabinets, you'll recognize that this is substantially bigger and beefier than any other cabinet caster out there. By default, we've got fixed casters on the front and the swivel casters on the back. Have the fixed ones on the front because that's typically where most of the load is concentrated. And then by having the screws attached from the top, there's a safety aspect to that as well. You can quickly look down and see that all screws are in place and all screws are tightened. And it's additional just peace of mind. Staying on the grounding subject, every ZetaFrame includes a grounding block. We redesigned this grounding block. And again, this goes back to those little details that save you some headaches on site. So there's no prep work needed. You don't have to remove any paint. There's no drilling or anything like that. The holes are prepped at the factory, ready to go. So, and there's 4 locations on ZetaFrame where you can install a grounding block. This is one of them, probably the most common here in the back center. But we have this feature at the front, the back, top, and bottom. So that's where the grounding block would go. And obviously it would just slide through the hole like that, put a couple of screws in, and you're essentially done. So real quick and simple. And I'll move up here to the top. You can see you've got the same feature here. A little bit difficult to see, but this is where the bond is achieved. It's a metal tab here. The top panel itself is toolless. We have these little pull tabs. If you didn't remove the top, you just pull those tabs and the top will pop off. Then also while we're in here, this is part of that, the frame itself. This is what that elaborate roll form shape that I spoke to earlier. You can see it's got lots of holes in it for adjustment of various accessories. There's a track that goes front to back here that's what the rail is attached to, and that's how you adjust the rails. So it's just a matter of loosening this hex nut at the top, center, and bottom, and positioning where you need it. Then hopefully this comes through. But on the tops, you can see this track. So this track runs front to back, and it's along the right and left-hand sides. And you use this track to bay 2 ZetaFrames together. You can use this track to support any overhead containment you may have. You can also use it, like I have here, to support cable pathway from above. And this, again, is taking advantage of ZetaFrame's load rating and be able to support the pathway. Lots of benefits to this. One being, you don't have all this threaded rod hanging down everywhere. There's a lot of labor and difficulties involved in installing that threaded rod. You got a lot of other things going on above. You got fire suppression, lighting, other cabling, power. Lots of different things that could potentially get in the way. So being able to support it from ZetaFrame is just a much simpler and cleaner way to do it. So here on the front, I have some cable manager examples. We have 2 different finger lengths on our finger style managers. This one's the short finger version. The one on the right here is the longer finger version. Again, it's just a matter of your cable density. We do have on the Chatsworth Products website under resources, we have a link to a cable fill calculator, and it's Excel-based tool. It's pretty thorough, but still very valuable because you can type in your actual cable diameter and look up a specific product that we offer and get an idea how many cables it can accommodate. So that's available to you right now on our website. But I'll show you some of our cable management features on ZetaFrame here. So you see the covers have these blue hinge points. These have dual purpose. They serve as, of course, the hinge, but they also serve as a latch. So as it's sitting here, the cover is latched. It doesn't hinge open. You see these up and down arrows. To release it, you just lift up slightly and the cover hinges open, right? And then, of course, doing a lot of cabling, you just pop the cover off itself. Once you get in here, you can see one use of our new lashing panel. So we've sized these so that these lashing panels can fit within the manager itself or used independently. So in this case, it resides within the manager, and then the use of these cable bundle swivels, that allows you to support your bundles on one side of this management space, and then of course branch your cabling out through the fingers on the other side. So it's a really effective but real simple solution. I do have this example here. Gives you an idea of what that would look like. So these designed just to accept a strip of Velcro, and then you just push it in the slot, and it's a quarter turn, locks it into place. These swivel, so you're not putting any pinch points on your cables as they transition around. Another benefit of this is that, when you're cabling, this is fairly tight quarters. So in some instances, you can bring your cabling out here, attach these little cable bundle swivels, and create a harness, and then move the harness inside here and just lock them into place with that quarter turn feature. Much easier to deal with it all out here than to try to manage all inside in this tight space. And then another feature of cable management, of course, all ZetaFrames include Grommet Seals in their front rail openings. Like you see here, we do offer an optional brush kit that allows you to replace those grommets with brushes. And this is really for more high density cabling. You need to pass a bunch of cables through that cable opening. Basically, the process is run your cables through. The brush itself has a split bezel so that you can retrofit that around your cabling. It just snaps into the rail. Pretty straightforward process there. And if we move over to the right-hand side, again, this is our long finger manager. It's a little bit more capacity, a little bit deeper. Same cover. We have a lashing bracket that's designed to fill that space as well. As you can see here, this particular one is 7 inches wide. And then that last element of cable management is the front to rear trough. So that's here, 2 pieces that telescopes and adjusts with the rails. There's a feature in the rail. Wherever you have a cable opening in the rail, you can install one of these. Or let us install it for you. And you can specify this within that configurator tool. And of course, some other features. Every ZetaFrame includes 50 of our patented click nuts. Those of you who don't know, it's just that simple, getting a cage nut in and out. Our click nuts have this little tab. The thread pitch is etched on that little tab itself. It's just that simple. So no more bloody fingernails. Airflow management, that's an important feature. So these serve as both kind of assist with the cable management and airflow management. These separate provide that barrier from your conditioned supply air from that hot exhaust air. And another important part of that is the air dam kit itself. So it might be a little bit difficult to see, but this one has the air dam kit installed. It provides basically a perimeter seal around your rails. So in this case, there's a seal going across the top. You can see here. And then I'll go inside, and on the side of the front rails, we have this large vertical seal that seals that space between the rails and the side panel. And then going back to the bottom, that's this piece here. This also has an optional bottom panel, but this piece here is part of the air dam kit. And this gives you a little more front rail adjustability and still maintaining a seal along the bottom of your equipment mounting rails. Go ahead and shut that. And that is pretty much it as far as a quick rundown of ZetaFrame. Hopefully there's lots of questions in the chat. Happy to answer them. Happy to open the door back up and focus in on anything specific that anyone wants to see.
Yeah, I'm checking the chat right now, and the question. I don't see any questions yet. I know that Ray Klein mentioned click nuts. I know that he loves click nuts. So if you can send him a free packet of that,
yeah,
I'd be very happy.
Anybody that's ever had to deal with cage nuts, especially taking them out, can appreciate click nuts.
Yeah, I think all of us have, lost a lot of skin on our fingers from those things.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm checking Facebook. I don't see any questions. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, there's a Q&A functionality. Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, while those are coming in, you know, all this information is on our website. We have the ZetaFrame data sheet. I mentioned the cable fill calculator. Our Chatsworth product YouTube channel has a series of videos that do a high level overview of various aspects of ZetaFrame. As far as data sheet sizes, we offer 42U, 45U, 48, up to 52U. We have 4 different widths, this being the widest one, but we of course have a 600 millimeter width is our narrowest one. It's 23.6 inches. We have a 700 millimeter, which I believe is 27.6 inches, and then a 750 millimeter, which is 29 inches. So 4 different widths and 5 different depths listed on the data sheet, from 800 millimeters to the most common 1200 millimeters, which is about close to 48 inches. But within that configurator tool, we have everything in between that. So again, every site condition, you know, maybe we've had situations where it's a retrofit space and there's some room constraints to where, and they're trying to optimize that particular space as best as possible. And so we had a customer that needs a 49U cabinet. It's a really strange height, but through our configurator, we have it pre-designed and you can specify that. So no issues there. Some other features, I mentioned the cable openings in the front rails. We have 4 openings by default, but again, through that configurator, you can make it a solid rail with no openings. We got 2, 4, 6, 8 openings. We have some 0U patching features, so you can integrate up to 6U per rail of additional rack space. It's just rotated vertically. Lots of top panel options. We've got grommet sealed openings, cable sealed openings, any number of openings depending on your cabling needs. Same thing with bottom panels, multiple door styles. One important thing to mention is having launched previous cabinets to the market, we understand that can be kind of painful for customers making that transition, especially if they need to finish the build out of an existing space. So with ZetaFrame, we took a lot of care in making sure that the overall footprint, the height, width, depth is the same as our legacy cabinets that our Global Frame and TerraFrame line of cabinets that ZetaFrame is replacing. So the same footprint, same ride height, and then within the configurator, we can even create ZetaFrames with a Global Frame or TerraFrame looking door, again, just to finish out and have that consistent look throughout that space.
Who do you see as the target market for this? Is this more geared towards data centers or SMB, or is it across the board? Anybody?
The data center is definitely, data center is definitely the most common, but with edge computing, and I'm sure you guys are seeing it too, we're seeing a lot more of these types of full-blown data center cabinets used in retail spaces. We've got projects going right now with a nationwide retailer that everybody shops at, where they're putting a couple of these in every store. So, right. And it's just it's kind of a move away from the traditional open 2-post rack. We've seen this progression over the years from a 2-post rack to a 4-post, and cable management's getting more and more elaborate to people wanting to enclose those open racks for security purposes, to now they're putting in these full-fledged enclosed cabinets, locking it to whatever level, whether it's just a simple keyed lock or combination lock or electronic lock. So
yeah, and in some cases they'll install an open rack and they'll make you install a closed rack after they come in and see it because of that reason. I've heard that happening recently.
Yeah. So and you take that approach, once you get all that open architecture stuff installed and cabled up, and then you want to enclose it. Well, now you could have bought a cabinet for less than all of that other stuff added up.
Right. It's good because it has the electronic access on it. That's an option as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We have a RFID-based card reader.
Yeah, and is it a proprietary platform you're using for the electronic access, or how does that work exactly?
No, it's pretty universal. In fact, one of the demos we do is we can take we get visitors, we can take their hotel key and reprogram it to work with with the latch. So
I got you. Yeah,
they're on
yeah.
their own. Let's get back in the room now.
Ray Klein asks, "What is the ballpark cost range?"
It's a pretty wide range, as you can imagine, with that much
I imagine, yeah,
customization and configurability from 42U up to an 8-foot tall 52U. And we sell through a number of distributors nationwide and worldwide. So, it's going to be anywhere from kind of street price to 1,500 on up to, you can easily get $8,000 if you're talking about configuring a cabinet with some smart, intelligent PDUs, part of it, integrated those electronic locks. The price can quickly escalate, but it all has its use case.
Yep. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in. Was there anything else that we could talk about around it?
We are because of the strength of this platform, we do see a need to create a seismically rated version of it. So we've got that in development now. Can't really commit on when that's going to be available to the market, but we will at some point offer a seismic version of ZetaFrame. What else? It's really just the main takeaway is, at least to, an architect, designer, end user customer, is that high level of configurability. It's getting it exactly the way you want, instead of being forced to order some data sheet or catalog item. These aren't just dumb metal boxes anymore. There's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of different aspects and elements that you really have to consider, or else you're gonna either you deal with figuring all that now, or you deal with the pain of having to deal with it and figure it out years down the road when it's already live and cabled. And
yeah. So Patrick asked, looking at doing OSHPD cert. I'm not familiar with that.
OSHPD.
Are you?
Yeah, it's a California requirement.
Okay.
Yep. That's we'll probably get into those aspects once we visit the seismically rated version of this. But yeah, that's a completely separate but fairly involved part of the industry that's specific to California.
Yeah, and he asked, seismic brackets are available, correct?
Yeah, good timing. Good on that question. Actually, we just finished up development of a seismically approved anchoring method for ZetaFrame. So that'll be within that configurator tool. It'll just be a box that you click, and the cabinet will include that bracketry, and then of course approved by a third-party seismic engineer. It just defines the method in which ZetaFrame needs to be anchored to meet seismic requirements.
Gotcha. I'm assuming that Patrick is from California.
Probably.
He says, thank you. Another question from, you're welcome, Patrick. Another question from Neil. He says, are you getting a lot of requests / deployments for these already?
Yeah, it's been, I think last year was a little down for everybody. A lot of projects got put on hold, but going into 2021, especially getting into February when we launched ZetaFrame, it's been fast and furious. making them as fast as we can. Hopefully it's the same on your end.
What is the lead time? I don't know if you mentioned that at all for these things. With a lot of customization.
Yeah, similar to pricing, it kind of depends on the kind of degree of difficulty, so to speak, and that's all part of, when we go in behind the scenes, as you're making those configuration selections, all that's been pre-designed, so it's pulling in different elements of the design into the build. But part of that, of course, is pricing, and there's lead time components that all get summed up at the end. But generally speaking, it's going to vary from anywhere from, depending on what what the current backlog is at the factory, but anywhere from, say, 15 business days to sometimes 5 to 6 weeks. Again, just depending on size of the order, complexity of the order, what we have going, the backlog at the factory at that any given time. Lots of factors that affect it.
Gotcha. Okay. I think that's it for the questions. I would like to come and hang out in your showroom at some point, if that's an option. Maybe hold a meetup there. I know we're talking about that, but
we would love to host it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring all my camera equipment. I got my lenses all ready. I'm ready to rock and roll. So
we can do a live hot seat. We can do a live hot seat. Yeah.
We can. We can do live and stream it. We'll do everything. I'll get a ton of content. It'll be fun. Cool. Well, yeah, if there's nothing else you want to talk about, then we are good to go.
No, just to wrap it up, thanks everybody for attending. ZetaFrame information is on our website, chatsworthproducts.com. We have the YouTube, we have our YouTube channel with lots of different videos on ZetaFrame. And again, just visit our website, chatsworth.com. More info, got the cable fill, all that good stuff in there.
I love it. Thanks, Duke. Talk to you soon. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep. Take care.